sure at one point in time I wanted to be an astronaut. But at the end of high school, I was sort of more leaning towards sports medicine or something in that field.
When I was in kindergarten, I wanted to be a teacher, and then once I continued in elementary school and high school, I had no idea what I wanted to be.
The first thing, from what I recall, being a teacher.
When I was young, I wanted to be a marine biologist. When applying to university, I wanted to be a lawyer. And then through university, I wanted to be a teacher.
I guess when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a lawyer. I was always arguing, always talking, always had an opinion, and people around me told me that I should go into law, so I set my sights on that.
I always enjoyed writing, and so I figured the only job I could do that involved writing would be journalism.
When I was a kid, I wanted to be a doctor.
I really wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be Whitney Houston because I loved Whitney Houston.
When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a movie star.
When I was a kid, I wanted to be a myriad of things. I think one started off as a pop star, and then once I got a bit more serious, I thought I might do medicine. And actually at the age of 14, I met my cousin who had married into the family, and she was a corporate lawyer, and I actually said I wanted to be a corporate lawyer because she seemed like she had it together.
A teacher.
When I was a kid, I always wanted to be a garbage man, and when I kind of got over that, I always wanted to be a policeman, and yeah, that's always been my dream.
So I was hired by my firm, Stokely Dudley, to start and build from scratch our public sector recruitment practice.
I'm a teacher.
I'm running an organization called Elephant Tail.
A general laborer for the City of London.
I work in public affairs consulting.
Now I work in PR as a career, and I love it.
I now am a college professor at Humber in Toronto.
I'm working in a sales and marketing position at a nutrition company.
Right now I'm still a student, working a summer job right after graduation. I'm going to a one-year college program to pick up some skills for public relations. And I'm just excited to keep the learning going.
Now, embarrassingly, I actually am a corporate lawyer.
I am a manager of childcare programs at the YMCA.
I'm actually a police officer, as you can see, judging by the uniform.
I made an effort to go out and talk to lawyers, and that was the best thing I could have done. I talked to people at my firm. They were incredibly supportive. I talked to people at other firms, and I got a sense for what lawyers were really like and what they did on a day-to-day basis.
After my second year, I went to India for 2 months, and I volunteered with Aboriginal communities in a rural community in India. Also, I was a residence advisor. I was, this was later on, but I was an assistant programming coordinator in residence as well, so running events for students. And I also worked with the University Students' Council. All those experiences really fed into the creation of Elephant Tail.
I was working for the city during the summer months. It was good money. I like being outdoors, so I kind of stuck with that.
I think it was just being open to new opportunities that really led me into discovering that I had a talent for public speaking and interacting with the public, and it was something that was just a lot of fun for me and sort of came naturally, and I could really see that as sort of a career.
I was working in Montreal for a large government agency that was giving out scholarships, and working with lawyers on different projects, I realized that lawyers weren't so much obsessed with the argument, they were obsessed with the detail, and I'm not a details person. So I've tried to think to myself, okay, how can I apply my passion for arguing and my passion for public persuasion in a different field? And then communications and public affairs sort of came into my mental space and shifted my career path.
I had a lot of strong professors in my fourth year when I went into honors program in English that were really strong teachers that were really dedicated to their job and were very creative, and that inspired me to go into teaching.
The ASB program was great. I learned a lot about teamwork, leadership, as well as a lot about my specific career goals.
I took a job working for campus recreation at Western and realized how much I enjoyed working in the recreation field, which also opened up opportunities after I had graduated, but just learning what you can do for people outside of institution and being able to guide their lives in a recreation setting and help support them through the goals they're trying to meet.
come to Western, I was enrolled in biological sciences, and I was pre-accepted to the Richard Ivey School of Business. I had decided to take a political science course, and this came from a newfound interest I had in politics that I'd gained over the summer. And I just wanted to test it out and just for fun, see what it was like. I took the course and I loved it. I felt head over heels. I was excited to show up to class. I had a real passion for what I was learning, and that totally reflected in my grades. I was also taking the entry course for the Richard Ivey School of Business. In doing this business course, I recognized that it really wasn't resonating with me. At that point, I decided that I wasn't going to pursue Richard Ivey.
I guess maybe once I didn't get into medical school.
During my time at Western, I just had opportunities that kind of led to me working in a PR capacity and discovered I really loved it. It was something that incorporated writing, and decided to pursue that after graduating from Western.
Well, I've always really been interested in fitness and nutrition. Although I did do a degree in French, I knew that I always wanted to incorporate some sort of health and nutrition aspect in what I do because it is something that I'm very passionate about. So that was very important to me.
By the time I got to university, I kind of still had no clue, so I went into psychology, and by the time I left university, I wanted to be a lawyer. I realized that I was more interested in becoming a teacher than a lawyer. The lawyer idea, I think, was more of about having that title, a lawyer, as opposed to really something that I would truly enjoy for the rest of my life.
Not until the end of university, really. I think I got really involved in school. I took a broad set of courses in liberal arts to get, my analytical thinking skills up, as you're told when you go to the Law 101 sessions. And then I got an opportunity to work in communications for an agency in Montreal and then in Toronto. I applied to law school twice, was admitted twice, deferred twice, and was really happy in my job, so I made a decision to stay in this sector and to not go and pursue a legal education. It was a tough choice, but I'm pretty happy with it.
Probably third year university when I started thinking about applying to teachers college and what that would mean and what my teachables would look like, and I just realized I wasn't as interested in teaching academics as I was in teaching alternative education, and decided not to continue the application to teachers college.
While at Western, and I was taking a whole bunch of science courses, be it biochem, genetics, etc. And again, I had my parents kind of supported me and pushed me towards the medicine field. During that time, I'd find myself sitting in the library sometimes and Googling, York Regional Police or Toronto Police or whatever it was, and just kind of, being at awe at the different things they do and just the idea of putting on the uniform and just kind of go in that field. But again, I'd find myself closing that window and opening up my science books, knowing that if I actually brought forward a career like that to my parents, they're probably like, what are you doing? You're doing well in the sciences. That's what you need to be doing. That's a real career for you. But again, going through Western and going through the sciences, I've always, deep down in my heart, always wanted to be a police officer.
In first year, I started watching the news and reading the newspaper a little bit more, and I sort of started noticing that there's a lot of extreme events happening all over the world. Natural disasters, man-made disasters, that kind of thing. So early on in my first year, I saw an advertisement for an alternative spring break trip to Louisiana, which had experienced a large hurricane a couple years before. And the trip was to start rebuilding, or help rebuilding with Habitat for Humanity. And having gone down there and been around people who had sort of experienced something like that, it sort of motivated me to get on a career path where I could do that full time for a living.
I ended up going to teachers college, and while in teachers college, I found out that wasn't something that I really enjoyed doing. Teaching just didn't feel right. It just was something that I didn't think I was going to be happy doing.
I ended up in kinesiology in first year, and then after switched majors and was in political science and graduated from poli-sci, and basically from probably halfway through first year, knowing I was going to make a change, till the end, had the expectation that I was going to go to law school, and applied and wrote my LSATs and all that, and got in, and then it sort of the 11th hour just decided that I didn't really want to go to law school, and I wasn't sure if that was a I don't want to go to law school next year, or if it was I didn't want to be a lawyer. And certainly, somewhere in that next few months, in terms of getting out and working in the real world, realized that I didn't want to be a lawyer. It was kind of a hands-off encouragement. I think that if everything had crashed and burned, my mom would have welcomed me home with open arms, and I could have lived in the basement and worked at Sport Western that summer.
Just giving me space, that's one way they've really supported me, and just kind of allowing me to find my journey. Also keeping me accountable.
My parents supported me by just letting me make my own choices.
When I told my parents that I wanted to be a police officer, at first they were a little taken back by it. You've gone through university for 4 years pursuing a particular field. Kind of where did this come out of? It kind of came out of left field, and I think a lot of that was I obviously didn't speak of it earlier, and I was comfortable in the science field, and I was a little afraid of what they would think about changing my career path because they were so adamant, and they were very pro-medicine, and that kind of held me back from talking about it. When I did talk to them, but I was like, well, tell me why you'd want to do it. And I said, you know what, I'm passionate about it. This is what I want to do, and I know I'll do well at it. Once he really started to get to know what the different options are within policing, I think he really opened up to it. And I think he really realized that I'll do well in policing, and it was a rewarding career, and which he obviously saw through my happiness when I was in there.
My parents were very supportive throughout my undergraduate career. I've sort of settled on a field that I want to go into, but even within that, there's a lot of options available to me. And they've been very patient with me as I sort of bounced ideas off of them, figured out my new 5-year plan every couple weeks. Another way that my parents have supported me in a very tangible way is letting me come back home. 3 or 4 weeks out of my undergrad, I was never expecting to have a career, but I was very happy to have somewhere to go while I keep working on to that goal.
My parents were very easygoing when I was in university. They were supportive of whatever I did. As long as I was happy, that was their main concern. They supported me financially. They paid my tuition, but any extracurriculars they made me pay for.
They always just told me to do what you want to do. Don't go into university with the mindset that you have to be a teacher. Think about what you're taking, what you enjoy, where you want to be, and go with something that makes you happy, not something that you think is going to make you happy. And afterward, always just letting me make decisions and make mistakes and learning from those mistakes without ever saying, you should have done this, or you could still do this. I chose not to go to teachers college, and they were okay with that. They didn't say you should go and do it anyway. They said, do what you need to do and make that decision for yourself.
Well, first of all, they paid for my university, so that's a major thing because I don't know how else I would have done it. They trusted me, which was huge, which I really appreciate them for doing that. And at the end of the day, they were always there for me.
Parents were very supportive, but they were also the type of parents that always said, just do something you love and just make sure that you're happy doing it, because just because it's something you may choose now, be open to other opportunities because you never know what is around the corner.
If you look at the most successful and happy people in this world, it's the people who are pursuing their passion. And it's the people who, you know, what we would say is their work really does not feel like it's their work.
The most supportive thing a parent can do, and I say this with a little humility because I'm not a parent yet, is just to support your student as long as you're doing their best. I think that Western has a really great system of encouraging students to take a breadth of courses, to have a very broad experience. My parents always, they're the typical immigrant story, right? They want you to be professional, so they always wanted me to go to law school. When I said, I got in, but I'm not going, they were kind of like, you're crazy. But they supported me and they pushed me to continue to do what I was really good at. And I think I've been relatively successful in my career path. So I would just say support your student, push them to do their best, because you've got to do your best to be successful. But as long as they're working hard, they're going to find their way. If you told me 5 years ago I'd be doing this, I would have told you you're crazy. But if you told me now that I was going to be a lawyer, I'd tell you I wouldn't, because I'm too happy doing what I'm doing.
Just let them figure out who they are and where their strengths are. Some of the best advice that my dad gave me when I left for school was don't live in the library. Do well in school, but make sure you get out there and meet people. And that's where I've done a lot of my personal learning and personal growth. I've had a great time academically at school. I've enjoyed the courses I've taken, but a lot of the experiences I had outside of the classroom, whether it was just with friends or it was through like something that the school or student council organized, I've learned so much from that. And if I had been focused only on schoolwork, I wouldn't have developed the career path I've got for myself now. I wouldn't have made a lot of the friends I have. I wouldn't have learned as much about myself as I know now.
A message for the parents: when your students go, when your children go away to university, their first day, their second day, I know prior to them going down, you'll speak to them and you'll say, hey guys, you got to go into medicine, law, that's the way to go. Hey, I'm proud of you, going to be a lawyer. And as soon as your child goes away to university, you go and talk to your friends. My son's in pre-med, my daughter's in pre-med, she's going to be a lawyer. You know what? Hold off and support them, because you know what? The amount of knowledge you learn in first year, second year, and third year, their minds may change. Their minds may open up to a different type of career that they may find that they're going to be passionate at. And as a parent, you need to be supportive of that.
Patience, because they're going to have some pretty rough times and they're going to have some pretty good times. They're going to be distracted and they're going to be really focused. Just be patient and supportive with them through that.
And be careful about timelines. Because I think there's this rush that everybody needs to know what they're doing by X year. And that's not true at all.
If you take biology, it doesn't mean that you have to be a biologist. And it doesn't mean you're going to be a biologist for the next 40 years. I think that people need to understand that life changes and your life needs change and your interests change.
My advice to parents would be just to be supportive and to let their child figure out what they need to be. Not everybody knows what they're going to be when they're 18 years old. Sometimes you need to go down different paths to kind of find the one that you need to be on.
I think good advice would be to encourage your students to get involved. You never know who you're going to meet, or you never know when you're going to, find something that you really love, and it could be somewhere where you never expected it.
I think a lot of parents, and I appreciate them for this, but they come in thinking you can be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Those are the big ones. And what people don't realize, and what I've come to realize, is there are so many professions within business, within the sciences, within social sciences, that are just under the surface, and the more you get to know about your chosen field, the more they come out. And oftentimes those are even better than being, the typical professions. And I meet people who have great hours, great compensation, and love what they do, and I'm always just wondering how they came upon it. And the way they do is to talk to people and get to know people in their industries and not feel pigeonholed into just the professions that everyone knows. So keep an open mind and do your research and try to find something novel, because you might end up better off.
I think it's really important for parents to be a sounding board for their kids.
Another final message to some of the parents. My uncle actually once told me when I was leaving high school and I was about to start at Western, and he had asked me, he goes, so you're going to Western, what are you taking? Oh, I'm taking pathology and toxicology, so pre-med, and I'll apply to med school. My parents didn't want me to do it. And he had always known that I wanted to be a police officer. I used to him and I would play fight night, handcuff him and stuff like that, so he always knew. And he said to me, he goes, you know what? He goes, it doesn't matter what you want to do in your life. Whatever you do, just be the best at it and be passionate about it. And I think that's the most important thing, because you can do something because it pays well, or it's respectable, or whatever the case is. That's not important. You need to do something that you're passionate about, because regardless of what happens, every single day you're going to have to get up in the morning and go to work. And if you're going to do that, you want to do something that you love.
Give them that freedom and understand that your kids are going to make good choices, even if they don't make them 100% of the time, and even if it doesn't to you seem like a good choice. A healthy mix of mostly really good decisions and a couple of bad decisions is what really pushes out people that are strong, are sure of themselves, and are ready to take on the world.